Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. So, hi, Andrew.
Hi, Pete.
That sounded phony. Try that again. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Pete.
That was better. I like the enthusiasm a little bit more. I like that a lot more. It makes me feel like I'm on a 1940s kids program. Maybe something.
Let's try one more time. I'm really gonna nail it this time.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Pete.
Here we go.
was waiting for that one.
You are a colorful character whose name starts with a howdy,
Howdy, kids.
or maybe a deputy. Deputy Andy.
It's Deputy. DEP apostrophe. Deputy.
Okay, you have some things that you'd like to get off your chest, right? First of all, we should say, if you're listening live, this is a big deal. This is new. Before we launch into therapy. If you're listening live, you can jump in on our conversation through Twitter. Just send us a question using the hashtag TNR Live.
TNR as in the next
reel, because that's what they're listening to, right?
Right, that's right. Welcome to the next reel, everybody.
Welcome to the next reel, everybody. That's Andy, Deputy Andy over there. I'm Pete. And we're going to talk about a movie tonight. We're continuing our saga, our interstellar saga of original science fiction films this month. And we're very excited to talk about Moon, 2009 Moon.
Absolutely.
From the fantastic son of Bowie.
That's right, Zoe.
Son of Bowie?
Zoe Bowie.
Zoe Bowie?
That's his name. We're talking about Zoe Bowie tonight.
Yeah. All right.
That's how I always knew him. I didn't know his name was Duncan.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know. Are we going to go there? With Zoe Bowie? David Bowie's awesome.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so we're going to talk about in 2009 Duncan Jones. Duncan Zoe. Is it Zoe or Zowie, really?
It's Zoe. It's
Zoe?
Yeah.
Duncan Zoe Haywood Jones.
Mm-hmm.
2009 film Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. Very excited about this film. And if you want to learn more about the show, head over to thenextreel.com, and you can find all the various ways to contact us on the contact page there, nextreel.com/contact. Before we jump too far into science fiction stuff, where do you did I ever? I know we had a little bit of a disagreement over the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was kind of fair to Midland, and you were quite upset.
Offended.
Yeah, you were quite upset. You
Yeah,
you really took it to task that time, didn't you?
I did. I really did. And I just want to report back to you, and I was inspired to report back to you by Sarmento's post on the blog. If you haven't headed over to the or been over to thenextreel.com/blog, you got to go over there. Steve Sarmento is from you may know from his hit role on the Film Board. Is blogging with us over there now, and he wrote this post about this young adult literature publishers pushing their films, and I wanted to first of all say that I take some of my angst back. I read the first book
of the Hunger Games.
Of the Hunger Games.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I did. Right. Yeah, no, it was my daughter made me. She was caving to peer pressure at school, and I was caving to peer pressure from her.
Wow.
And so I read the book while she's been away in China, and I have to tell you, I was pretty excited about it.
Oh, interesting.
I was into it, and so I take back a little bit of what was said in the movie. I've softened a bit in my old age, or maybe I am truly numb to violence now, and I just don't care about that stuff anymore. Maybe that's what's happened.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. But his post on there. Have you read this Divergent series?
No, I haven't.
You haven't read anything on this? I haven't either. But it looks an awful lot like the Hunger Games. Like the cover art is the flaming circle, and
well, isn't that how it goes? I mean, Harry Potter broke big. And all of a sudden, there was a wide variety of young adult fiction novels that looked very similar. And now they're going for the Hunger Games thing. And then Twilight, too. It's like they kind of each tap into something, and everyone else tries to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where we are. It's a good post, and there are a bunch of books in there that Steve pulls out that I have not heard of. So I'm excited to... I'm never ahead
when these movies come out. Like Harry Potter, I guess, was one that I had read before I'd heard that the movie was coming, but everything else, like, I hadn't read before the movie comes out. And I'm looking forward to Steve keeping us on track so that I can maybe stay ahead when some of these books get made into film. So,
yeah, I don't clamor for the young adult fiction too much these days, but if something does cross that line, like Harry Potter seemed to, then
that's
I'll
right. I want to be.
it.
It's not like I'm really hungering for it right now. It's that I want to be ahead.
Right.
I want to be ahead of the curve.
I hear you.
As an older man,
you want to be tapped into that younger generation.
That's what
I gotcha. It makes you feel younger.
You said that, not me. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Let's see. Do we have any Facebook updates?
No. Well, no Facebook updates. That I know of.
Well, they were just to go to Facebook, because we're also posting lots of wonderful little links and comments that don't make the blog. We should be better probably about that. So you should check out the Facebook page. Make sure you like us on the Facebook page. And thank you to all of our newest listeners from around the world who have found us through the Facebook page. We sure appreciate your likes and your votes. And stick around, listen to the show too.
And you can go over to iTunes and leave us some nice feedback there. We always love getting feedback on iTunes, some 5-star ratings and reviews. That's how other people find us. And if you leave us a 5-star review, we will read it on the air for you.
We will. That's something we
make
do.
you famous.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do here.
All right. Shall we? Do you have Did you have something you wanted to say?
I have a couple things that I just wanted to talk about, and I'll likely post these on our blog or on Facebook. A couple things that people had been kind of blasting around that were, I thought, quite funny. The first is this post. I found it on Petapixel. Photoshopped stills from action movies with guns replaced with thumbs up. And I don't know, it just in the whole thing of like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg changing their movies and removing things and everything, for some reason these photos, and they named the whole series Thumbs and Ammo. They they have this whole series like Pulp Fiction, The Terminator, Reservoir Dogs, Looper, Star Wars, Rambo, The Matrix, Scarface, Skyfall. I mean, the list goes on of all these films where they've removed the gun, and it's just the person is just giving thumbs up, and it takes this whole this violence of the weapons and everything, and it turns it into something that's really funny, and it just makes everything seem so much happier.
I'm looking at it right now.
Isn't it? It's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. These are fantastic.
The Reservoir Dogs with the two of them just like thumbs upping each other. I just love it. It's absolutely awesome.
Tom Hanks in Finding Danny DeVito. What's his name? What's it called? Finding
Danny DeVito.
Where was he in the world where he was searching for Matt Damon?
Oh, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's actually a whole website, thumbsandammo.blogspot.co.uk.
This is fantastic.
It's really, really awesome.
This is for you. It's the Judge Dredd. It's Stallone.
Yeah, so we'll put this up on our site. That was just one thing that just absolutely made me really happy because it just everything about it's fun.
Oh, that's perfect.
The other thing, which I find interesting, and I just wanted to chat for a minute about it with you because I think it's so fascinating. You've heard now about the now I'm going to blank on the name of the movie because the website's not coming up. But how Kickstarter is turning into something where people are able to, raise money for all sorts of movies, and whether it's independent films.
Yeah, Veronica Mars is the big one.
Veronica Mars, thank you. That was the name of it. And that's the big story is like all of a sudden now there's this big film that was a TV show that lasted a few seasons. It has its followers, and now it's gotten, I think at last check, it's over $3 million, and they were looking for $2 million.
Yeah.
And so tons of people are funneling money into this movie that Warner Brothers is going to distribute. And so I don't know. It's like, is there this weird possibility that movies like that could come around where people not only pay to get it made, but then the studio essentially has kind of a free ride with the project. They didn't pay anything to make it. They're going to distribute it and make the money on it, because then people are going to pay again to go watch the movie. Seems like an interesting situation that is being created.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what you're like. Are you what part about? I mean, you sound skeptical about some angle here.
I'm skeptical.
You think the studios are getting away with they're getting away with doing their part?
I don't think they're getting away with anything yet. I'm just curious if it's going to turn into something where they're able to start getting away with things. Where essentially, if people are interested in something, we end up funding the film to get it made.
Mm-hmm.
The studio, puts it out into the world, and then they make the money. They're not really putting any money up for projects anymore. It seems like it could potentially create a strange situation where basically studios aren't spending any money making movies. They're just basically making money on movies that people paid to make and then paid to watch.
Well, so then what's the studio argument there, right? Okay. You're right. It's expensive to, like, it's historically been our job as a studio to finance these films, get them made, and shepherd them through distribution. But as we talk about on the show often, there really are two halves to this to this puzzle,
sure,
right? There is the financing the film, and there's distribution. Distribution is expensive too, particularly on films that are essentially spec films, right? That's what these Kickstarter films are. So they've raised $3.7 million right now, almost $4 million for this movie. How much would you think that Warner Brothers would be willing to put into distribution of a film if they can keep it? I don't know what how realistic it is to keep that. Or how much Rob Thomas is found in other finance, other arrangements of finance,
other financials, right?
Right.
I don't know. I'm very curious. I mean, is that all they're going to spend on the movie? Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean, distribution deals tend to be something where I guess it depends on how you work it out, but it could be like a 50-50 deal where, or maybe it'd be more like an 80-20 deal where the person who's doing the distribution gets 80% of the profits, you get a small 20% until they have recouped all of their expenses that they put into their actual distribution, and then it moves to like more of a 50-50 split sort of thing. I honestly have no idea how they're going to work this sort of thing. I'm very curious. But the other side of this coin is, aside from this dilemma of studios now getting into a source like Kickstarter and what that means for them, but what does it mean for the independent filmmaker who's trying to raise money to make a film now that they're going to be competing against Warner Brothers, who's raising money on Kickstarter?
But see, it's not really Warner Brothers raising money on Kickstarter.
It's not Warner Brothers. You're right.
I mean, this is Rob Thomas, the former, creator and showrunner of the show. And I haven't. Maybe it's a different perspective on Veronica Mars specifically because Rob happens to be very dear friends with another dear friend of mine, and so I don't know Rob directly, but I do know a lot more about him than I normally would other people in the industry, and so. I find this project exciting because it shows that the weight of the fan, but at the same time, let's say this project is funded and he spends his $4 million to make this movie and they make a great movie. What they have is word of mouth based on right now 57,000 people who are going to go see this movie. If we assume that the people who back the film are going to go see it. And once they sell this thing to Warner Brothers, they actually are able to distribute it, let's say worldwide and do that. And so it's like that other half of the puzzle that I know he's going to be looking for. Yeah, we can make the movie and we know that our diehard fans are going to help us get it done. But then we have to get it out there to people who aren't diehard fans so that this intellectual property will actually move forward.
Yeah.
Because I think there's legs. I mean, I'm not a huge Veronica Mars fan.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen it. I don't know if it's something that I would pay to see. I mean, I don't think I was ever really interested in the show or in watching a movie. If they did it with Firefly, maybe, I might be more interested then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just kind of just throwing it out there because I find it an interesting situation that this big, kind of a studio TV project is all of a sudden now being funded by fans. And I'm just curious where it's going to lead things. And I really don't know. I guess it'll be interesting to see how Veronica Mars does, the movie version, and what follows. Is it going to be more studios? Is Kickstarter going to be more difficult for a small independent filmmaker to get something made? My understanding of all the independent films that have been crowdsourced through Kickstarter, this is the only one that has actually made over $1 million of pledges. Right. And maybe it's the only one that's had a goal that high in the first place. I don't know. I had a friend who funded a feature. He raised, I think, 24,000, or his goal was 24,000. He raised like, 30,000 or something like that, and he got a feature made out of that. I'd love to see Rob Thomas do that, but that's chances of that are probably slim.
Well, I just think that there's something to be said for where this goes, and I'm all in favor of some of the more. Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, Silicon Valley ecosystem kind of has a way, or so let's say this, the web has a way of meeting out the big names from the do-it-yourselfers at home, right?
Yeah, right.
And Rob Thomas is an industry guy, and he's up here, air hands way above my head, and there are those who are shooting for the 30 grand to do something more modest. And maybe Kickstarter isn't going to be the storehouse for all of those to compete against one another. I have a feeling if this gets to be a problem, another tool will come up. There will be more money for this to be made from creatives. I don't think Kickstarter has to be the only place. No. But I love the, have you read through any of the wins or like the prizes?
Yeah. It's interesting. And people can be an extra.
You'll get a lot.
You can be a speaking part, right?
Speaking part. You are a waiter or waitress. You approach the table and you say, "Your check, sir." We guarantee you'll be on camera as you say the line, unless you go all hammy and ruin the scene and we have to cut you out. But that would be a sad day for all of us. Just say the line. Don't overthink it. You're the waiter. Your motivation is to turn over the table. In addition to appearing in the movie, you get a framed copy of the page of the script that includes your line. In order to get that, you have to give $10,000, which somebody did.
Yep. I saw him interviewed on the news.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's great. So there are a boatload of these prizes in this. It's got one of the longest prize lists on Kickstarter I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they're for big chunks of money too. I mean, it ranges.
Well, it's fairly modest. I mean, up to
from $10 to 10,000, yeah.
750. Those over 3,000. Well, let's see, 1,000. Most of them are under 1,000, but still, how many people are gonna give $750 that to Veronica Mars? I would not give that much money.
50 people did, and they're all gone now.
I love the $10 pledge. You'll be sent a PDF of the shooting script the day the movie is released. Read it or remain unspoiled. The choice is yours.
Right.
Anyway, okay.
It's interesting. I'm curious to see where this goes. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this now. If other fan shows that have big fan followings, like Sarah Connor Chronicles, that was one that Joe Blow pointed out was a big fan favorite that got canceled. Is that something could see the light of the day? Who knows? I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm also curious to see how it affects the studio funding, and I'm also curious to see how it affects other independent filmmakers raising money. So that's all. I've said my piece.
I think your piece is fantastic. I'm excited about this one angle of it, which is that the audience has a voice in the content that is being created in this industry before the content is created, right? Yeah. What would it be like if the studios put all of their films, all of their projects for the coming, 5 years up on a site and let us vote on them before they actually sunk all the money into making them?
Right.
What I mean? Like, how would that change the narrative of the industry? I'd be interested in that. I feel like that's in many ways what Kickstarter is doing in this area.
Yeah, it's doing it is doing something like that. That it's in a way it's almost like a guarantee. The money's there. I mean, it's guaranteed to already be pleasing some people because those people who donate, who have already contributed that quantity of money, they're going to be in line watching it when it comes out. So you already are guaranteed that audience.
Yep,
it's pretty interesting.
All right. You have another thing you want to talk about? Is that it?
Those were the two things.
All right. Let's talk about some trailers briefly, shall we? You trumped me, first of all.
I did, huh?
That was my trailer, and then you sent this email and says I found my trailer.
Well, why don't you talk about it? I'll talk about this one that I was just texting you about.
I'm going to talk about now. I have a new trailer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about this new trailer.
You talk about your trailer.
All right.
No, now you own it, man.
Well, I just was excited because we had just talked about Danny Boyle, and I just saw the trailer for Danny Boyle's new film Trance, which really looks quite horrifying in its red band glory.
Yeah, the red band trailer, that's true. So the link in the show notes on the website. Definitely check it out. It's not the trailer that I expected from the blurb.
No.
So the blurb, let me just read the blurb.
Read the blurb.
An art auctioneer who has become mixed up with a group of criminal partners, criminals, partners with a hypnotherapist in order to recover a lost painting. That's what we get.
Right.
But it's a Danny Boyle film, and so it's red band. It's a red band art auctioneer film.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm quite excited to see it. Rosario Dawson looks great in it. And it really looks like it has some interesting twists and some really kind of gory stuff going on. So, I'm excited to see what Danny Boyle does with this, what he brings to the table.
That James McAvoy, I like him.
He's good.
I like him quite a bit.
He's better when he doesn't walk around with goat legs.
Yeah, definitely. I was really sad coming out of when and I Wanted for me is a guilty pleasure film. I enjoy the bending bullets thing. That's a fun little trope, but I was genuinely disappointed that he came off of Last King of Scotland and did Wanted. Like I was hoping for a little bit more substance, and I worry that he's kind of in there now.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for some good stuff out of this film, some good meat.
I hope so. It looks really fascinating. It's got that crazy French guy.
Oh,
what's his name? He's been in a good number of stuff. Vincent Cassel. Yeah, he's in. Yeah.
He is so crazy.
Yeah, he definitely is a creepy guy, and he seems to play that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He's great in Black Swan. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, that's my trailer.
All right. Mine is, I know very, very little about it, but the trailer just came out today, and I find myself really moved by it. It is called The Last Kings of Summer. It is due out in June of this year. Director Jordan Vogt Roberts. Jordan Vogt Roberts. Writer Chris Galletta. And it is about these three boys who are unhappy. It's a coming-of-age tale. Three boys who are unhappy with the way their lives are leading, and one of them has a overprotective dad, and so they decide to go build a home in the woods and live on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And the trailer is just quips and the three boys making some impromptu music with sticks on a pipe for a minute, and I just love it. It feels just like summer to me, just like my youth. I found myself really touched. I don't know. I hadn't heard of the kids, Nick Robinson, Gabriel Basso, and Moises Arias, but it is also starring the lovely Alison Brie from Mad Men and Community. Nick Offerman, the fantastic comic character actor, and Megan Mullally, who I haven't seen in a whole lot of substance since Will and Grace. And of course, Marilyn, I'm going to mess this up, Rajskub. is in this. Strangely, she was the last I remember really seeing her was as Chloe O'Brien in 24.
Oh yeah, and she was also in Mr. Show, wasn't she?
Yeah, I believe you're right there. So, so it's got a really interesting cast of the bigger named supporting cast, but it's just one that's got a very nice sort of touching teaser, and I think it's worth watching. So,
interesting. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right,
should we go from the woods to a little original sci-fi?
Yeah, let's
do it. I'm excited about this movie.
Why are you so excited about this movie?
I'm glad you asked. I really am. I'm genuinely glad you asked me that. So we're talking about Moon, Duncan Jones' Moon, 2009. And when there are a number of things that strike me about this movie. The first is, like last week's movie, talking about sunshine. First of all, how great is it that we go from sunshine to moon?
Oh, I know, it's great.
Right? I didn't even think about that until I was watching the movie. I thought, we're really quite clever. This film, I think Sam Rockwell's portrayal of this film is really unique. It is not an original sci-fi film until about a half hour in. That first half hour is, okay, we're going to celebrate how hard it is to be alone in space.
Right.
So we're alone in space. We've got a robot, Kevin Spacey, that swings around on this arm from the ceiling and kind of takes care of things, kind of the robot Kevin Spacey butler. And generally, since I am a fan of Sam Rockwell, I enjoy watching him walk around his this place. I buy into that, but it's not necessarily original. And then Sam Rockwell appears again, and it starts getting really interesting. And I think one of the things I like the most about this is the way the film plays the paranoia, delusional elements that come from solitude with genuine intrigue.
Yeah.
That in the end, spoiler alert, it turns out he wasn't delusional. Like, he wasn't crazy. And they could have easily gone down that road. And I tend to be one of the more sort of practical, literal, viewers. And I don't like to be tricked as often as I think filmmakers like to trick me. And in this film, I thought it was really satisfying to watch the way Sam Rockwell plays with himself on screen.
But it's really not that kind of a film.
But it's not that kind of a film. The other piece of this is I think the visuals, I think, again, are something to kind of celebrate. I think they play a little bit with the sci-fi trope, and particularly some of the engineering marvel of having this base on the moon with perfect gravity. I don't think they ever actually address that. But he seems to sleep in a dorm room, and everything seems to stick to the ground just fine.
Yeah, they address that in the commentary, just regarding the budget. It really was not feasible to create moon gravity the entire duration of the film. So they only do it, like, really, you only see it one time, and that's when he's hopping from one rover to the other,
right,
as he's hopping across the moon. And
yet, and for me, at least, I didn't find myself distracted by that. It was until the second or third viewing, and I thought to myself, wow, you know what he's not doing is floating.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where I guess you see so many sci-fi films that once they're indoors, our brains, like, ever since the whole idea of sci-fi stories have existed, it's almost as if once they go inside a building, they have some sort of gravity, artificial gravity that's in place that's making them making regular Earth gravity, just like sunshine. There is no real artificial gravity that's been discovered yet, but all of these people create, they use that as something that we just buy into.
Right. But in terms of the visuals, in terms of the general celebration of the genre, I love the way Jones and cinematographer Gary Shaw play with angles in this film, and it really starts with the opening credits. I think I'm sort of brought in to the to the film in a really satisfying way. We start with this sort of docu-commercial, about the search for power and how we've discovered this helium-3, by mining the sun on the moon, essentially. Yeah. And so we put this facility on the moon, and it turns out, as we transition at the end of this commercial to the opening credits, this fantastic montage of really beautiful angles, with the credits kind of floating along these wonderful angles, sort of illustrating the set pieces on the moon where we're going to explore Sam Rockwell's character through the course of this film. And I found that really satisfying. Like, I think they really established where we are and how we get around and the kind of mechanics early and quickly. So by the time we're introduced to Rockwell's character, Sam Bell, I think I'm bought in, and I'm bought in for the duration. I didn't feel like the film fell apart in the third act. I felt like the action and rescue sequence was very satisfying. Watching them sort of puzzle this out together as Sam Rockwell's prime.
Sam 1 and 2.
Sam 1 and 2 Sam 1 starts to deteriorate.
Or technically Sam 5 and 6.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a really good point. Like, this whole thing is it's kind of a shell game. I mean, it's can you keep an eye on the real Sam Rockwell? Because there are
you mean Sam Bell?
Sam Bell. Yeah, that's going to be hard.
Sam and Sam and Sam and
Sam. All of the Sams, and I found that really satisfying. So what about you?
I really enjoy this film. This is a film that I think proved to me that you can do a low-budget science fiction film. So often, filmmakers who are working with a small amount of money, independent filmmakers, making a genre film tends to be something that's easy to sell. And for whatever reason, horror is the genre that is most often gone to. I think it's easy to make low budget horror films. There are a lot of people in Hollywood in the studio system today that are there because they started in low budget horror films. It seems to be kind of widely accepted. Making a low budget science fiction film, I think, is a lot more challenging for some reason. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they're as prevalent, but it excites me when I see one, and it excites me when I see one that is actually quite a good story too, and has a lot of good elements to it. I think what this team did in this story, both coming from Duncan's direction and then his working on the story with Nathan Parker, who ended up writing the script, they told a really elegant tale about this person living on this moon base. And then this story about, in a way, I find it's about what does it mean to be an individual on one side. And then on the other side is this fascinating story of corporate greed and and how corporations view their workers and use them. And I found it a really interesting, insightful film looking at it that way, and how this corporation really abuses this one person who, in a way, is part of the system, I guess you could say. At least Sam Bell, number one.
Yeah, Sam, in that respect, we don't really ever meet Sam Bell.
We don't meet Sam Bell, and we don't know if he knows that these clones are up there. I assume that he knew. That I don't know if it's never really pointed out in one direction or the other. I just always assume he does, and that he probably said, yeah, sure, whatever, and made a ridiculous amount of money on it, and now just lives at peace on Earth with all of his money and his daughter and memories of his dead wife, and just ignores the fact that these clones are up there.
That is, I think, that piece of it. That's the bittersweet piece of it for me. That when you talk about this being a tale of corporate greed, it is also, to me, operating on the assumption that Sam Prime actually did know what he was doing and was and went home after 3 years and was properly remunerated for his DNA,
right?
Knowing that he just walked away from it and left this project going on the moon at the expense of these beings that were considered property.
Yeah.
property that expires. I mean, that's the part that to me is of the technology that was truly horrifying. Watching Sam 5, or the first Sam Bell that we meet, deteriorate through the third act, I thought was really stunning. Yeah. Well, and I guess we watch him deteriorate through the whole. I mean, he's having these delusions and talking to himself and really struggling.
He's really breaking down. Yeah,
he's breaking down from the moment we meet him, and only in the third act we realize that this is happening because he's got an expiration date.
Yeah, it's in a way it's fascinating because Duncan Jones clearly is tapping into a wide variety of science fiction films. I mean, he brings up a lot of the films that he really loves that he's referencing. Like Silent Running, Outland, Alien, 2001, Solaris, but you can also see elements of Blade Runner in here. There's a lot of great classic, 70s and earlier sci-fi that he's really tapping into here to kind of create this vibe. And I think there is something interesting going on in science fiction. It seems more so then than now, maybe I'm wrong, but the way that you could really examine kind of human psychology through a science fiction story. I mean, I remember reading science fiction when I was younger, and some of the tales really were designed to look at modern society or look at, what makes a person who they are and all that sort of stuff. And that's why I think science fiction is such an interesting genre, whether it's literary or cinema. And I think that's something that he really tapped into with what he was pulling from, and then the way that they developed this. I find that expiration date of these people just horrifying, and much like Blade Runner, these beings that do expire, and you watch Rutger Hauer expire at the end of the film there, and it's just heartbreaking. As terrifying of an antagonist as he is through. Particularly the third act of the film, but then you get to that moment at the end, and he's got just the most amazing monologue there.
Tears in the rain, soliloquy,
and then he expires, and that's it. And same thing here. It's a little more gruesome, kind of falling apart that Sam Bell is doing. But,
nearly comical, and that's one of the most interesting things about Sam Rockwell is that I feel like I have a hard time sometimes taking him as seriously as I think he needs to be taken in some of these roles, and watching him fall apart in this film, watching that version of him fall apart, it's almost funny. And it it reminds me of just over the top sort of I'm trying to think of what else he maybe it was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something's just over the top.
No, he's kind of an over the top guy.
He's an over the top guy, and I think in this case, you don't get I think what I needed, it's that last conversation where, the two Sam Bells have, and the new Sam Bell 6 has come up with his plan to send the old Sam Bell home in the gas launch chamber. And they're having this conversation about how, you have a great plan, but you picked the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. You're the one who needs to go. You need to go. You need to travel. And I think, I don't want to lay this all on Sam Rockwell, because I think part of this is that is a scene that I feel like I needed a Tears in the Rain kind of a speech from this film. This film is generally somber and serious, and it's full of that same kind of grit, less action but more grit, and I feel like that's where it ended up feeling a little bit anemic to me.
No, and I agree. That's toward the end of the film, it always kind of dies a little bit for me. I just don't feel like I get a climax. I feel like it's a fascinating science fiction tale that I hear here, and I really enjoy what they're doing. I enjoy everything about it, but I never feel that the final element of the third act really builds to a satisfying climax. I enjoy it. I enjoy what it does, but I always feel like there should be a little more there. And I don't know if it's the script or if it's Sam, but I tend to blame it on the script. I feel like there needed to be something a little more with the script going on there. I really like Sam Rockwell in this. And thinking about this in context of the year of 2009 when this came out, I don't know. I some people have a harder time with him than I do, I think, but I really enjoy what he did here. And I feel like there maybe should have been some more award recognition for what he was doing here. I think his performance opposite himself, for my money, was pretty amazing. I really enjoy watching him in this film.
Absolutely agree. And I think, as far as I may have started nitpicking a little bit early, I do put, I think, most of it onto the script for the third act, because I still love I think what really stands up to me for me in the third act is just the way the visuals sort of all come together of the the last minute redirection of the rover, so that he ends up knocking down the signal blocking tower, that they had put up, and the way that Sam 1 or Sam 5 is watching his replacement, the younger Sam, as he jettisons off the moon, while he is slowly running out of life at the crash site. I mean, I find the close-ups on his eyes, and then the POV from him into space is just it's really it just sort of takes your breath away.
Well, and for me, it's the scene when he drives because their base is on the dark side of the moon. He drives around kind of to the other side of the moon so that he can see Earth and he can be in direct communication range, and he calls his daughter. And he has a conversation he calls his house. He doesn't know who he's going to get. He thinks he's going to get his wife. He gets his grown-up daughter, who's 15 years old now, who he thought, as far as he knew from watching the messages that he'd been receiving, was a little baby still. And and to top it off, the wife had been dead for a number of years. And it really threw him for a loop. But the emotion that he expresses there in that scene, as he realizes that this is his grown-up girl and that his wife is dead and all of this, and then that the real Sam Bell is right there. It's I mean, it really breaks your heart. His reaction in that scene, to me, is just some of the best of the year. Well,
specifically, I totally agree with you. When he begins to refer to her as if he was talking to his 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah, right.
As he's talking to her as if she's just a woman who answered the phone, and then he switches. It's like the light switch, and he says, he's like, "When did Mommy die, honey? Yeah. When did she?" And he starts really talking to her as if he's a father talking to his baby. Yeah, it's really touching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you talk about the awards. The film did very well in sort of the British circuit. It was nominated for lots of things.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's Duncan's first film. He'd been directing commercials up to this point, and it's his first film. So a number of the awards, I believe that he was recognized with, like at the BAFTAs, he got an award for a special achievement by a British director, writer, or producer in their first film. Mm-hmm. He got a number of those sorts of films, and he did a good job. I think a lot of people really liked him. Over here, not so much. It kind of disappeared. I remember hearing about it. I remember seeing the posters. I don't know. It probably opened at the Art House Theater near me, but that's probably it.
Yeah, you didn't see it in the theater when it came out?
No, yeah. I didn't. I completely missed it.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think this is a great film, but and I should add, apparently, Duncan Jones has this designs to do a trilogy.
I've heard him talking about a wide variety of stuff. I don't know. I'm curious to see where he's going to go. I don't know if that's something he had been talking about at the time when he was in the kind of the festival circuit with this, or if that's something that he's still planning on doing. I don't know. I'm curious to see where he goes with this, because he went from this to source code, which I don't believe is what he had been talking about doing at the time. He'd been talking about doing a film set in Berlin, I believe was his next film that he'd been planning. And then he went and did source code, which I absolutely love, and which I still say is the spiritual sequel to the short film I did in college.
Totally.
The Wait, which I just put on YouTube. I'll have to put a link in the show notes.
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
Well, he has said as recently as, June of last year, that he was moving forward with a graphic novel version of a prequel, which he says is a, quote, love letter to Blade Runner. He was not able to get to secure funding. He probably should have gone to Kickstarter, and so he's going with a graphic novel prequel to Moon, and that so there's something.
Yeah.
So let's see what else stands out to you, particularly in the production. We've already talked about that. Once you get over the fact that there's no gravity.
It's I just think that they did a really great job of developing, I should say of using and then further developing the essence of filming a story with the same actor playing multiple roles. I mean, this is a technique that's been in cinema for a very long time. It probably goes back a lot, all the way back to the beginnings of cinema. I'm sure that they found a way to do split screen and all that. My earliest recollection, which like I said, I'm sure they did it before this, but is Freaky Friday from the 70s. That's what I remember as kind of seeing the two Haley Mills on screen together. And that was a technique where they did a split screen, where they'd film a scene, they'd have the camera locked down, they'd have little Haley Mills act, and half of the screen would be covered up, and then they would kind of cover up the other half, and they'd have Haley Mills change clothes and put her on the other side of the frame, and they'd back the film up, and they'd film that other half. Obviously, that technique has developed quite a bit. You look at Jeremy Irons in Dead Ringers, they did a masterful job there. And then you look at what they did here in Moon with the two different parts. They did a lot of split screen with him. They did body doubles. They had at times, they had a guy, I can't remember his name, Robin Chalk, who it was about Sam Rockwell's size, I believe, and had like a green screen hood on, and that way Sam Rockwell could interact with him a little better, and then they do face replacement. But then they also did just a lot of great stuff where they would just film Sam by himself acting a scene, and he would have an earbud in on the next go around of the scene, playing his take that they picked from the first scene, and he would basically have that earbud in playing it, and he would be acting, and he would know where he was standing, and he would just look, and he would be acting with himself, listening to himself in his earbud. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And then so that was amazing. And then you see scenes like the ping pong table scene where he actually dives across the table, and the way that they were able to play with the different wipes in order to make that work. And even it's a scene toward the end, I believe, where Sam 5 is not feeling very well, and Sam 6 comes in, and he like puts his hand on his forehead and feels his temperature. And then he says, "Come on, man, put your hat on." And he takes the hat out of his pocket and puts it on his head. There's a lot of interaction going on there. And they were able to, just using all these different techniques, create this situation where it seems like, I swear, there are two Sam Rockwells in the frame at the same time. And at a certain point, it even gets to 3 Sam Rockwells. It's really stunning how they worked that technology to make you feel like it was actually happening. And it's funny, Sam Rockwell says this film it's hard for him to watch because it's like an exercise in narcissism. he's like, I just can't watch it. It's too hard for me to see that much of myself.
That's fantastic. There is that's one thing you bring up, that all of the expertise with which they handle the multiple personality angle of this film is absolutely unquestioned. You know what I mean? Like, there is no point when I think to myself, okay, they're doing some sort of crazy effects. I believe that there is a twin and a triplet of Sam Rockwell on screen. I wonder how much of that, I don't know much about this Gary Shaw. He hasn't done a whole lot other than before Moon.
Well,
it looks like he was big into motion control. He was a motion control cameraman.
And I think he had done some music videos or some commercials, with Duncan. I think that's where they had met. And and they just kind of came on together, and they used a lot of motion control. All of the moving shots in this, basically the way that it works with, I think one of the ones that they were using is the DP gets the shot the first time. And once everyone is happy with exactly what happened, how the actor performed, the movement of the camera and everything like that, I don't know what they do. They lock it in or something. And then that motion control system will basically repeat everything with that move over and over and over and over again. So they could have, Sam 6, then he could do the scene doing his part of it. Then the special effects team, they would have the little Gertie box that they were pushing around, and they would move that through the scene and then the CG people could come in and kind of clean that up. And they would do that over and over again. And that way, when you take all those elements and you lay them on top of each other and you rotoscope out so it's just all the right pieces, you have a shot that looks like everything was in the frame at the exact same time. Everything is smooth. The frames match up perfectly. And it's a great tool to be able to use.
It's like cheating.
It is, but it just... It looks so good.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
What a great film.
It is. This was a low budget film. Talking about Sunshine last week, which had a lot of money to play with. I mean, Sunshine, like I said last week, had a $40 million production budget. This had a $5 million production budget. Much, much smaller. They had some marketing money in there that brought it up to 8.5, I see. But still, that's a very low budget. And they shot it in...
And since 4 million of that probably went to Spacey.
Right.
This extremely low budget.
It is. And they shot it in 33 days on the set. And then I believe they had 8 days of model work and green screen to shoot.
Wow.
Which is not a lot. Although, funny, I just happened to watch Flight, Robert Zemeckis' film from last year. Finally catching up with that great film. And that they shot that little character piece, as Robert Zemeckis calls it, which is, I think like a $31 million budget, something like that. But they shot that in the same number of days. So it doesn't have to mean that a big budget film has to be like shooting for 60 or 70 days.
Suddenly it sort of feels like Moon took too long.
I know. They should have got that done in 10 days.
Like 10 days. It's like a play. It's all Sam Rockwell.
What it boils down to is they just have a lot more people on set when you're doing a big Zemeckis film. But yeah, so they really cranked this out. They built one set, the big moon base, the lunar base, and then a bunch of models. And they just went to town and got it all done. And I don't know. I felt they did an amazing job with it. The production design, one way that they got away with using a lot of the CG in a very effective way is more so than the CG. They used a lot of models so that when they did use CG, they were able to make sure they put the right amount of money into it. And using the models, they had Bill Pearson, who actually had been doing model design all the way back on Alien. And he came on board to help with some of the models and everything. So they found a lot of people to help make this the right way for a science fiction film that kept the money on screen without having to put too much in CG or too much to actors, anything like that.
It's fantastic. Everything I couldn't tell the models either.
Yeah,
it must shows that I'm not watching closely enough.
Well, but what they do is they use models, like all the stuff on the moon with the rovers and the helium-3 harvesters.
Right.
All of that is models.
Right.
It's like a giant. I can't remember how big they said this thing was. Of basically, it's like kitty litter that they made this moon model with, and then they had these big rover things that they would just pull across with strings. But then they would have the special effects company come in behind that. And, Duncan was very meticulous about wanting all of the stuff on the moon to look accurate. So all the dust behind them and everything, he made sure that they had this nice parabolic arc because there is no atmosphere on the moon, and the gravity is so light, everything needed to have this nice flow as it left. And so he really made sure that they worked hard on developing all that sort of stuff. So any of the dust particles, any of the bounce, a lot of that stuff, they came in afterward and added. So the models have all been enhanced with CG, which is possibly why you didn't recognize it.
Well, that's what, it either shows how jaded I am. My assumption is the entire thing's CG at this point. So, but you're right. It was a for the budget. It is an absolutely incredible setscape.
Yeah, really
it's
is
beautiful. They do a fantastic job. It just to kind of wrap up my thoughts a little bit. I think you hit what is happening in this film. The layers on this film that just get teased out over the course of the hour and 30 minutes, whatever it is. That we're dealing with Rockwell's potential delusions, his Sam Bell's unraveling.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the general paranoia of industry, right? And we're dealing with then ultimately the fear of losing our lives in a place that is extremely isolated, sort of the loneliness that comes from, what does it mean to die alone? What does it mean when, in the scape of identity to die alone? Just because you have these memories of somebody else, does that merit, you being remembered?
Right.
When none of these Sam Bells will be. I think it operates at so many wonderful levels. It is by set piece a sort of hard sci-fi, but it could be set anywhere, I think, and I think it stands on the performances of these these Sam Rockwells.
Right.
It is, I think I just saw this Empire quote. That they called his performance one of the 10 egregious Oscar snubs.
Yeah.
For Sam Rockwell, and this is another one. The more I think about it, the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it.
Well, here, let me throw something your way. These are the 5 actors nominated for Best Actor that year.
Mm-hmm.
George Clooney for Up in the Air, Jeremy Renner for The Hurt Locker, both films we've talked about on the show. Morgan Freeman for Invictus. I haven't seen that one. Colin Firth for A Single Man, and Jeff Bridges for Crazy Heart, who won that year.
Yeah.
Where do you think Sam Rockwell could have been in this crowd? I feel like he could. I feel like he brought a lot to the table, creating 2 characters playing off of each other. I felt he was strong. I mean, I haven't seen Invictus. My wife said it was terrible. She said
Invictus?
Yeah, she said it was terrible.
She's a little hard on it. I know it's terrible. I thought it was great. I quite liked it. But gosh, I think this is, I don't know. I don't know. We've never talked about Crazy Heart, but I was very surprised that Jeff Bridges was nominated.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I had a really hard time with that movie. Okay. So I wasn't crazy about that. So knock him out, and I think Sam Rockwell's a lock.
See, I would say knock Morgan Freeman out.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one. He could have knocked it out. But the other 3...
I would not remove any of those.
I would not remove any of those,
George
no.
Clooney, they were so solid in their given roles. I love Jeff Bridges. I really enjoyed Crazy Heart. I enjoyed him in Crazy Heart. If I were to give Jeff Bridges an Oscar, it would not be for Crazy Heart.
Yeah.
I think he's done many other greater films. It's one of those things, though. Did they give it to him that year because he hadn't won one yet? A lot of people think so. I don't know. I'm not going to argue it. But my wife said Morgan Freeman just was Morgan Freeman in Invictus. Playing Nelson Mandela, but it came across as just a very Morgan Freeman-y sort of performance.
That was going to be my next comment. Like Morgan Freeman was nominated because, frankly, he's Morgan Freeman. He'll probably get nominated for Oblivion. It is who he is. He's the guy who gets nominated. But he's a seat filler at this point. That's really rude. That's not true.
That's
We love you,
terrible.
Morgan Freeman. That's really, you're that good that we can tease.
He's gonna come knock on your door one day. And
He's gonna be so mad.
he's gonna take your Morgan Freeman fan club card.
My posters. He's gonna take all the posters down.
Yep. Your chain reaction poster that you have. Gone.
Chain reaction.
That's right.
That was good.
Yeah, or hard rain. He'll take that poster too.
Man, you're on fire. You're on fire. God.
Yes. Yeah.
If only.
He's got some stinkers in there. He really does.
You know, Andy, oceans rise, cities fall. Hope survives. Deep Impact.
There you go. Oh God! Don't.
Right.
There's another apocalypse movie that should have.
I want to. Okay, so I'm gonna do. We're gonna talk about this after the show. I gotta think that after we finish recording. So let's wrap this up because I'm done talking. But we need to rank it.
Okay,
I'm sure you have more.
I do have a few things, so let me just ramble through them real quick. So first of all, we started talking budget. Let me finish with budget. It made domestically $5 million, internationally 4.7, so total gross about 9.7. So of all the movies we've talked about that we have like full budget and profit information for, Moon is the lowest grossing profitable film per finished minute that we've talked about
because it made $7.
It actually made almost 13,000 per finished minute. Not a lot, but it's not up there with the 4.3 million that Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull made.
Wow.
So that's that.
All right.
Next, this was just a funny thing to think about next time you watch it. Sam Rockwell and Duncan Jones talking about the different Sams, Sam 5 and 6, and kind of coming up with a different vibe for each of them. Sam Rockwell went with Dustin Hoffman for Midnight Cowboy for Sam 5, and he went with a Clint Eastwood for Sam 6. And I think it's funny when you hear that and then you watch the movie and you put it in context.
Totally see it.
It totally is those guys.
Oh, it's absolutely.
It totally is.
That's great.
Yep, very funny. And the last little thing I felt, because I gave some fun facts about the sun last week.
We're gonna fun fact the moon.
That I felt like I should. I felt like I should.
Totally should. You fun fact that moon, Andy.
So the moon is thought to be nearly 4.5 billion years old. It formed shortly after the Earth. At least that's what they hypothesize right now. At this point, as you probably do know, the U.S. astronaut program is the only manned missions to the moon to date that have been successful, and there were 6
that we know of,
right? And there were 6 manned lunar landings, all happening between 69 and 72, and after 72, that was kind of the end of it. And there have been unmanned spacecraft going back to the moon. There was the final Soviet Lunokhod rover in 72, and then since 2004, other like the U.S., Japan, China, India, the European Space Agency, I love that they have that, have sent lunar orbiters to kind of orbit the moon and stuff like that. But I think what's really fun about the moon is that there is an actual outer space treaty that they made for the moon, so that exploration of the moon would be free to all nations to explore for peaceful purposes.
That's great. That seems very pragmatic.
It is very pragmatic. It was very smart of people to create.
You don't see that kind of pragmatism anymore.
101 countries have signed the treaty. Another 27 have signed but have not ratified it. So we'll see what happens with those ones.
Let me guess. Uruguay.
Actually, you're not far off. Bolivia is one of them.
Bolivia?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know what to say about that.
Going on.
They do. That's it.
Those are your fun facts?
Those are it. Those are my fun facts.
Well done. Well done. This should be a regular thing where Andy fun facts us on something.
Oh, and
just verb the fun fact.
And helium-3 is a real thing that is thought to be on the moon. So that's an interesting little bit of fact that they used to create this science fiction, which I enjoy.
That's science fact.
Science fiction.
That's science speculation.
It's something.
Let's flick chart this thing.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Moon or Looper?
Well, I'm going to say Moon.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I think I would enjoy watching Looper more often, but I enjoy thinking about Moon more often.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go with Moon.
All right.
Oh, that's weird. Hold on, I have to start all over again. Oh, sometimes
I hope I don't change my mind.
I hope you don't too. Okay, Moon. I see. It just always jumps to the same things. Moon or Zero Dark 30?
Zero Dark 30.
Absolutely. Moon or The Descent?
I like thinking about both of these films.
Yeah, but I enjoy watching The Descent more. I just think from beginning to end, everything is right about the film.
Yeah. All right, Descent. I agree.
Moon or The Bourne Identity?
Bourne Identity.
Yep. Moon or The Sandlot? That's a fun one.
I'm going to say Moon, but no offense, Sandlot.
I'll agree. Moon or Thank You for Smoking?
Thank You for Smoking.
Yep, that's my pick. All right, there we go. Number 37.
All right, that's okay. That is merely a testament to the fact that we talk about a lot of really great movies.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So, good.
Well done, Andrew. So next week we are, we are wrapping up our original sci-fi. You know what we didn't talk about, and this we should talk about next week. Let's make a note that I think we should just talk a little bit about original sci-fi and what it means to us after we talk about all four of these movies.
Yeah.
Because next week we're going to be picking up with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman in 1997's Gattaca from Andrew Niccol. Very much looking forward to this film. I remember really, really loving this movie, and I haven't seen it in probably 4 or 5 years. So,
good. I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Yeah. Great film. So that's coming, Gattaca next week, and then we move on to something new.
And then we start a new series. Yeah, it's a short little original sci-fi series, but full of great films.
Well, you know what's come out of it for me is just this a list of other great original sci-fi films that we really need to, foundational sci-fi films that I think we can talk about next year when we do this again. Absolutely. All right. I got nothing else. You got anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Hey, thanks, man. Good talk.
We wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support over the years. It's hard to believe that we have been having weekly, in-depth discussions about movies since 2011.
That's right, 12 years and counting. Producing this show is a labor of love for us, but it does require a lot of time and effort each week.
If you enjoy our podcast and would love to help keep it going, there are some easy ways you can show your support. One is by using our Originals page to shop for the original source material that movies we've discussed were based on.
That's right. In Season 1 alone, we covered 13 films adapted from books or plays, from Charlie Kaufman's adaptation to David Fincher adaptations like Fight Club.
In Season 2, we covered even more, like Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes and The African Queen from our series about legendary cinematographer Jack Cardiff.
We can't forget about the 4 Jason Bourne movies we talked about. Love those movies. Well, the original trilogy, at least.
For our Richard D. Zanuck series, we did Jaws, Rush, Big Fish, and more. And for our horror series, we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing, which was adapted from Who Goes There?
We did our first great car chase series with movies like Bullet, The French Connection, and Drive. And for the holidays, we did Preston Sturgis's Christmas in July.
We had a great John Huston series with adaptations like The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
And for our baseball series, Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Have I told you lately how much I love that movie?
Yeah, I think you have. Plus our Magician series and Heist film series had adaptations as well.
tons of page-to-screen gems. Listeners can find the details and links to the original material at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play, or movie you buy through our links helps support the show, and it's no extra cost to you.
So dive in and get your next read today. thenextreel.com/originals has all the films adapted from other sources that not only we have covered, but all of the shows on the Next Reel family of podcasts. Check it out and get reading.
Support the show and build your reading list. It's a win-win. Head to thenextreel.com/originals.